the world has changed, but the industry has changed too. And I speak on this topic often, and I talk to my peers about this. In pre-crisis, bankers in general were known as good guys, and we've always done good things for community, and whether it's political, civic, social. During the crisis, our image took a hit, and some of it was deserved. I think some of it was deserving, some of it was not, but some of it was. And we've got to rehab that image, because I think if you look across certainly our footprint, the 5-state footprint, strong banks make strong communities, and you look at the impact banks can make in communities throughout this state, throughout this region, it's huge. And so we've got to get beyond the who shot John in the crisis and move on to historically what banks have done in communities. I don't know, Chuck, because I was in Atlanta, and I do say this to those that are critical that we didn't see it coming. Early on in the crisis in Atlanta, we were asked to merge in several of the Synovus affiliates in the outlying areas. I was in Alpharetta back in North Georgia, and we merged in banks on the east side of Atlanta, and on the west side of Atlanta, and on the south side of Atlanta. And as we did, and I saw these problems, I thought, wow, this is a suburban problem. I'm just glad it's not here. And then it hit like a tidal wave. So I really, what day, what year, no, but when it hit, we referred to it as a tsunami, and it was overwhelming. And people and companies you thought were just bulletproof or invincible struggled and went under. I can't speak to Colonial. I can speak to Synovus.
Fair enough.
And I was right in the middle of it, as were a lot of people up here. And there was a determination. Number one, there was a united board that was absolutely committed to doing the right thing to make sure that our company survived. And I think our team, it was inspirational to me to see the way the team stuck together. Every bad thing that could be written about a company got written about us. Every rumor that could be circulated about a company got circulated about us. And my charge to the team here was, let's just focus on what we can control. If we spend our lives defending all the rumors, we'll really lose sight of what's important. So we executed some very successful capital raises. The team stuck together, and at the end of the day, again, I can't speak to Colonial. I think the story here is how our customers hung in there with us, because it was easy back in 2010, 2011 to seek higher ground if you were a customer.
Or just seek a bank that had better ATMs.
Better ATMs, better reputation, no regulatory issues. Nobody was whispering, are they going to be here tomorrow? And yet our team and our customers hung in there with us. And, we lost some, but for the most part, we saw it again this past year when FDIC deposit share data showed that we retained top 5 market share in markets that represent about 80% of our core franchise. So that just says our deposits were sticky, our customers were sticky. They heard things, and the team heard things, and there were so many times I wanted to set the record straight, but instead it was, we've got to execute. We've got a plan to get back to profitability. We've got a plan to recapture our DTA. We've got a plan to repay TARP, and we can chase down the rumors, or we can just execute, and that's what the team did. Yeah, I think so. Because banking is really not a complicated business unless you make it that way. Now, with the new laws and regs, it gets complicated. There are days I even can't figure out how you make a mortgage loan without violating some law. But I think so, because it's a people business. And so at our core, it was keeping the trust with our team and with our customers. And those were the two constituencies. Now, did we have to build that with regulators? Yes. But at our core, we were, and we really are, a community bank. At the time, as you recall, pre-crisis, up until Memorial Day of 2010, we were 30 independently chartered banks with their own boards. And we consolidated those Memorial Day weekend, 28 one weekend and then 2 the next month, and kept those local brands. But at our core, we kept that community bank look and feel, and I think that was absolutely helpful to us. I had a deep respect and appreciation for the history of this company. So it was tough. Some of the things we had to do were very tough to me. In my 41 years, most of those years have been building things and recruiting people and hiring. And so to dismantle or sell off or cut, these were friends. These were, in some cases, we had family members of executive. I mean, it was tough. So it was emotional. I didn't enjoy it. But again, it was, do you want to save a company that's been around for 100 plus years, or do you want to just put blinders on and think this crisis is going to fix itself? And it wasn't. I mean, I think about the $100 million of cost that we took out, $25 million a quarter. I went to Georgia, but I can do that math for me. And I can remember in 2013 saying to any of you that were doubting whether that was the right thing to do, guess what? If we hadn't done it, we still wouldn't be profitable, and we wouldn't be here. If by 2013 we weren't profitable, we wouldn't be here. So I think the team realized, okay, these were the right things. But it was emotional, and there were nights we were here till 3 and 4 in the morning, and you just scratch your head about, wow, where's this going to end up? But nobody quit, but it was tough. I probably didn't understand the depth of the crisis. I knew we were in a crisis, and I felt a strong moral obligation to join Richard here, because when you're in a crisis and your leader asks you for help, you don't think about it. You don't say it's not convenient. You don't say I've lived in Atlanta for 30 years. You just do it.
How far off base was that report?
Way off base. They incorrectly reported it for 2 hours, but as you know, an electronic headline left up for 2 hours can be pretty damaging. And it was harmful, it was hurtful, it was irresponsible. And by the way, those are words I have shared with them, so I'm not doing it.
They refused to talk to us about it.
Yeah. Well,
I called.
So I talked to them. Normally, Greg and Allison would do that. I had a very direct conversation. What's ironic is that it started with the release that we prepared last October, because as we began this Atlanta consolidation, where we really had excess, Atlanta's a big market and very important to us. We have excess office space though, because Atlanta is a roll-up of 9 banks that we bought over time. So the goal was, how do we bring those together, create some mass, get more efficient, cut cost, and by the way, get some branding. And so we don't want to have rumors out there. Let's just put in a press release what we're doing. So we did it last October. They didn't find it that interesting last October, and somehow, and I know how part of it happened, they got that confused with some interest in a particular area of Atlanta. And as I told them, they weren't far off base about where some of our interest was. They just got off base as to what it was about. And it was about this Atlanta space consolidation, not anything about our headquarters.
So there are no plans to move?
No plans at all. And it was, and by the way, the reporters I understand were in the room on the other side, and there was no basis in fact for what was reported. I think it was just a mistake, and I think
pretty big one.
It was a pretty big one. And quite frankly, I still see people who saw that headline and never saw the retraction. It's interesting. So my friends in Atlanta say I live in Columbus because I'm here most of the time. I typically travel down on Sundays. My wife and I came down Sunday afternoon. Now, I'm speaking to a group tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., so I am going to go back tonight. But I'm typically here 5 days a week, unless I'm traveling, and I live next door to Eagle and Phoenix. So my friends in Atlanta consider me a Columbus guy. That's what they say now. So look, no, it doesn't. I don't know if it fueled it or not. I think early on that was a bigger issue for me. At the end of the day, I think what people really want to see about me is what's your commitment to this company. And I hope that by what I've done, how I've done it, people don't doubt that. And so, I probably spend more time in the car than anywhere. And they're both great friends, both to me personally and to the company. Jim Blanchard is probably still my closest, I have to draw the line on advisor, but he is so close to him. And I still talk to him about people issues, business issues, because I've never seen a person who could really break things down so quickly. And so great friend, and Jimmy Yancey is as well. When he retired last spring after 53 and a half years of service, I had him address the Tuesday morning leadership group, which was named the Tuesday morning meeting. It sometimes occurs on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but it's still the Tuesday morning meeting. He addressed the group right before he went off the board. And I told him it was probably the last time as a board member. And he had the audience just spellbound for 45 minutes talking about the value of the customer. And I still seek their advice and counsel. They're not the founders of the company. I mean, that goes back 127 years. I don't think they want to be called the founders.
But the modern Synovus.
Modern Synovus, and a lot of people want to criticize that decentralized approach, but I tell people, you know what? It served us pretty well for a pretty long time, and so the world changed. But they have been so supportive. Both of them have been so supportive. I became CEO in October of 2010, and we announced the first week in January of 2011, an ice storm hit here, and we announced $100 million in cost cuts that would ultimately result in over 1,000 employees losing their job. And we made the announcement that morning, and by mid-morning, probably your newspaper and some of the television stations were in the lobby downstairs, and I went down to address them, and I was asked, is what you've just done, $100 million, 1,000 employees, is that consistent with the culture of Synovus? And I said, it absolutely is, because we have treated people with fairness, with transparency, with as much generosity as we could do, and we've done it in a way that allows people to keep their dignity. And I said, you can look at it as cutting 1,000 jobs, or you can look at it as saving 6,000 jobs.
Is this still the culture of the heart?
Absolutely, I believe it is. I believe it is kept. You said, why did we survive? Yeah, not to the why did others not, but there was a feeling here that we are a family, and we're going to hang together. When we announced, so October of 2011, we announced the return to profitability. And so I knew we were going to announce it a month in advance, 6 weeks in advance. It's just how the public companies work, but you don't release earnings until third week of the quarter. And on earnings days, I usually come in here, usually, and people think it's strange, but I'm usually in here 5 a.m., 5:30 when we're going to release at 8:30, because I have to get in here and I study and reflect on what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it. Well, that day, we were announcing the return to profitability. And it was old news to me because I'd known it for 6 weeks. And so when it hit the wires at 6:30 or 7, it just wasn't that big a deal to me until I had my iPad sitting there, until I started just getting pinged from employees, some of them I didn't even know. And one I'll never forget that just said, Mr. Stelling, I just burst into tears when I read this, because so many people had said our company would not make it, and it just gave people kind of a new life that, all right, we said this would happen, and it did. Now let's move on to DTA and all the other things. But I never thought it was over. There were times I was like, if I have to write the last chapter, I'm not sure what that's going to look like. I never believed this company was at risk of failure. And I told the group here, I said, don't let anybody in this company ever doubt our resolve. And I made it clear, they're watching our body language. They're watching everything about it. I don't care how tired you are, don't show it. There were some long nights where you just wondered, where does this end? Whether it was a regulatory challenge or how much can one organization take? And I was very worried about the stress of the organization and the stress on its people. that health issues and.
Can organizations get stressed like a person can?
Absolutely. And there were times that, as hard as I was pressing, I felt like, is this too much? And everybody out there, we had to be our own, each other's governors. There were times people would tell me to pull back. There were times I would tell others, pull back here. We're pushing this too fast, too far, but yet we all knew that we didn't have an unlimited amount of time or capital to burn through, so we had to get through this crisis. Where our company has such deep roots, and there's just a great appreciation within those communities for Statesboro, Georgia, where we're 110 plus years old, where we're #1 market share, and this company can build on that. And that's what I tell people all the time. If 5 years of a crisis and we're still this strong, just think what we can do now. And so now we're returning capital. 3 years ago, everybody said you'll never.
You're paying dividends again.
People said you'll never make it. There's no way you exit TARP without a capital raise that dilutes you so much you have to sell the company. Well, so guess what? We exited TARP July the 26th-ish of a couple of years ago. We did a capital raise that night. It was oversubscribed by 5 o'clock. We made it sound glamorous, so we were up all night. When we announced at 4 o'clock that we've gotten approval to exit TARP, it was, I think the whole world said they did it. And we had that stock offering, preferred offering was oversubscribed. And
Which meant more people wanted it.
More people wanted it than we had. We were issuing 185 million of common stock, 130 million of preferred. And we had set up to do investor calls that night, and we were told by the bankers no calls are necessary. So we were done. And then people, even on the call that night, started asking, when are you going to give some back? And I joked about, hey, we've got to raise it tonight, and we'll think about capital return a year from now. So a year later, October of this past year, we announced a $250 million share repurchase and a 43% increase in the dividend. And again, I think it surprised the market that we were able to announce so much, but again, it was part of our plan. And our team, this has been a team effort, but the team motto, we've always said, let's under-promise, over-deliver, and I think that's what we've tried to do. So I'll tell you what I told the team this morning. We had our senior team meeting. I said, I'm going to work longer than anybody in this room. We were joking about.
And you got some young guys.
We got some young guys there. We were talking about succession planning. I said, well, I'm going to work longer than any of you guys. I'm 58. And I was joking, but I love what I do. I really do. I love what I do. I've been doing this since I was 17 years old. I love what banks can do. I want to block out the bad things that happen, but banks help build communities. They help send people to college. They help people buy homes. They help people plan for retirement. I love what banks can do, and I love what I do. And so for my 41 years, I tell people 36 of the 41 have been pretty fun. Maybe the last 5 years wasn't as fun. I'd like to put the fun back in banking, not just so we can joke around here all day, but see people use that energy in a positive way. So my future is, I serve at the will of the board, but I plan to work until the board, I tell people until the board throws me out, until my wife tells me it's time, and she'll never say it's time, because she knows, she laughs about you'd be miserable if you didn't do what you do. So I love what I do, and I don't have any plans.
Are you a golfer, or do you have any hobbies?
I love to play golf, and I average now about 1 round every 3 months. So I just don't play much, but I love it.